Welcome to Beyond the Fine Print, the podcast where we help you simplify the ever-evolving world of commercial laws and technology and answer the major questions facing lawyers today. I'm your host, Rory O'Keefe, and in each episode, we'll be breaking through the jargon so you can stay ahead, keep it cool, and take control back. Now let's get started. Welcome back to Beyond the Fine Print. Today, we're diving into the world of out-of-home advertising, ad tech, and all things advertising. This is, for anybody in out-of-home, is all about lives in the real world. Billboards, bus stops, digital screens, and increasingly spectacular stunts that blur the line between art, tech, and public theatre. It's the medium you can't scroll past, you can't mute it, and you can't ad block. Done well, it doesn't just sell a product, it creates a cultural moment. And Talon has been behind some of the most talked about out-of-home campaigns in recent years. You may recall the Specsavers van stunt in Edinburgh, where a branded van appeared stuck on a pillar, sparking national headlines and social buzz. You've got Google's Outside campaign in London, which turned billboards into live search results for passers-by. And you got Pepsi Mac's unbelievable bus shelter, augmented reality experience, which had tigers, UFOs, meteorites raining down on commuters. These weren't just ads, they were events. So when we talk about out-of-home advertising, we're talking about the power to stop people in their tracks, to make them laugh, share, and remember. And that makes legal questions around it, from contracts to ESG to AI, not just technical, but cultural. Now, to help us unpack all of this, I'm joined by someone exceptional, who's one of the most eclectic legal careers you'll hear about. Welcome to Yvonne Fern, who's General Counsel at Talon, steering legal strategy in one of the most dynamic corners of advertising. But before that, she cut her teeth across some of the biggest names in media and telecoms. She's been at BBC. That's the place where even a documentary about Moss can feel like a masterclass in storytelling. She's also been at Deutsche Telekom, one of Europe's telecom giants, where the legal complexity is so intense that if you handle a contract there, you could probably solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded while juggling a compliance matrix that requires a PhD in origami. So when it comes down to saying how law, media, and technology collide, Yvonne hasn't just read the script, she's lived it, directed it, or probably had to redline the contract for the soundtrack rights. Let's get into this. So Yvonne, welcome to Beyond the Fine Print.
Thank you, Rory. Not quite sure how to follow up from all this, but yes, nice to be here.
You're very welcome. Right, let's get into this and a few kind of easy topics to get into, because we've talked about advertising and especially the advertising that you support in your company, which is very much cultural moments that you can't scroll past. As not, for anybody thinks, it's not just the posters, okay, that just move up and down as you pass in your car. It's data-driven, it's programmatic, it's often integrated with social and streaming platforms. So the lines between media, tech and advertising are blurring fast, as you know. And you can see it both in what the out-of-home experience, but also the ad tech advertising online experience that we have. And that means the legal questions are more complex. So you've got data rights to content licensing to platform accountability. And just not getting into the nitty-gritty of all of this, but what broadly would be legal challenges that come up in your mind that you have to navigate in this space, more so than you would have, say, done in the other amazing places you've been across your career? So what kind of legal challenges come front of mind?
I think exactly as you said, that it is a landscape which is very much evolving constantly. Because it's a very global industry, you have to keep an eye out of legislation worldwide, what's happening where. And you have to keep your finger on the pulse. In all the industries, like I worked, as you said, for 10 years at the BBC, you knew your contracts, you knew your laws. There are a lot of challenges, but there are a lot of things that are established. Whereas here, things are happening very quickly. To be fair, it's across all industries. It's not just out of home. If I would be today at the BBC or at Deutsche Telekom, I would have just as many challenges because we are just living in a faster paced society. The laws are evolving faster. The issues are evolving faster. And as you said, they're colliding faster. Beforehand, you had you had your GDPR data protection, one thing, but now there is not one contract where you do not have to kind of consider just as much the IP rights than the data rights, then worldwide licensing. All the different issues are colliding together. So the need to become a generalist and yet at the same time really know your stuff is becoming more and more important. So heavily relying on your external experts who help you to guide, like, by the way, here you need to be aware there's a change here. It's getting more and more important.
Yeah, there's certainly it's a strong theme across all the in-house counsels that I'm working with and speak to, is that the complexity of the laws, and just especially when you're global, it requires trying to pick out what you need to keep up to date with and trust in the people that are going to give you those updates, that give them to, well, like, as I always think about the world that you're living in so much is about, you've got automated buying, real-time targeting. You do have data, but data for you, I always understood, is you're even more concerned about location data, consent, and profiling comes into your piece as well.
Oh, I would be careful with the word profiling, but that's exactly
absolutely. Absolutely.
We are very different. If I may interrupt you here, that's the difference with out of home to normal advertising. We can do targeting without targeting. Like, it is more bespoke targeting to a certain audience segment without targeting you, Rory. It's without being kind of invading into your private space. We can help an advertising campaign to be more effective without the same use of targeting in a mobile phone advertising, for example, where they target the individual who holds the phone.
Yeah.
It is much more like, okay, we know that group of people are more likely to be in that vicinity, so we can be more bespoke and more targeted without interfering. We are far from the RoboCop's world, thank God, where you walk past a billboard and the billboard will know, this is, I mean, who knows? Maybe that's where it's coming, but that's not what we're doing right now. We are more like, we know that there are more people of that and that age group who might be walking around, so who at a specific time of the day, rather than we know Rory is walking past a specific billboards.
I do like the idea of it because there is a overlap between the types. It's not just the installation of, a vehicle sticking out the side of a building. The first issue I have in my head is, that clause around death of personal injury, and then look at the insurance, because if that falls, but it's fascinating because it's a different way. It's advertising in a different way. And I really love the innovation that comes through from your work. As we can see, there's a lot more data-driven elements to the business that you're running now, more so than ever had before. And there's a lot of tech integration mediums as well. My next question would be, what's flowing through those pipes? So many of our listeners will be super familiar with the EU AI Act that was brought in last year, and it's been slowly being brought through, and everybody just remember the GPAI Code of Conduct practice was launched in August. Check it out. But in the UK, for example, the UK and the Electoral Commission is already warning about deepfakes and political ads. And add to that the survey showing that most people can't tell AI content from the real thing. Now, hopefully, when they're looking at a billboard or an installation of yours, they can tell it's real or it's not real. Even though you may have UFOs and meteorites falling down on them in one of your installations. Virtual, it's not real, by the way. And suddenly, you've got all these dazzling digital billboards. And for me, for lawyers, we say that, which has the potential liability magnets for those. So if AI is already writing these ads and hallucinating facts, are lawyers ready for this liability nightmare? Or are we just hoping that no one notices until the lawsuits arrive? I totally appreciate you're coming from two angles, both from the ad tech space, but also from the out-of-home space as well. So where do you see the AI element to all of this?
We're all thinking, what's next? Definitely, there are a lot of lawsuits in the pipeline, which we are all watching and seeing what is happening and coming. As a lawyer in particular, I think transparency is key. You need to be open when you're using AI. You need to make sure that you are using it, that the material has the proper copyright, and that you're aware of the risks involved with using AI. I think people not using AI, you can't. I think it's very, very clear in today's world, you have to use AI because it's just part and parcel. If you're not, it's like, I don't want to use electricity. It doesn't work. It is part of our lives. We all are exploring it in a sense together while the courts are awaiting the first cases which are coming through. While these are being decided and the laws are catching up, we have to be just transparent and aware of the risks, being able to act if there is something quickly. But we are very much working together with our clients and our partners, the media owners, to make sure that we are doing this together and open to how this is developing. This is very much a watch the space. If I would be here and be able to tell you exactly X, Y, and Z, I would be
Yvonne, that's why you're here. That's what everybody wants to hear. Come on, give us the answer.
I think the honesty is that we all are waiting. We all are really waiting what is happening. It is not yet decided who will definitely be liable. I mean, there are so many articles from the FT to the Economist. Everywhere you see articles on AI liability, who will be the ownership, etc., etc. It has not landed. It depends which academic you're reading. It depends which court case you're reading. Yeah. So I will not be the one who's saying, like, no, this is how AI liability will land. If I would certainly be not on this podcast, but apply for a Nobel Prize. So it's in the moment, as a lawyer in the space, it is being transparent, aware, and talk to your teams how they're using AI, that they're informing you that your contracts are tight, that you have the right liabilities and indemnities, and that if anything goes south, everybody's working very quickly to react. Yeah. That is the key, I think, in the moment.
It's nice that you mentioned transparency and you brought up the IP point, because I recall it was over the summer, I think in August, that the EU Commission had pointed to rules on general purpose AI models and bringing in more transparency, safety and accountability. So the GPAI models in that. And then for anybody using those models in the delivery of their services, they need to be super aware of those transparency and accountability pieces, even for those in the UK who are working across Europe. I think we can't avoid having to pay attention to the AI Act and everything that falls around it. You do mention IP. So that intellectual property question, especially the copyright piece as well, still needs to be teased out. But I agree, we need those cases. We need those challenges. We need some certainties around it, but we will get there. Right. So thank you for that. But so if AI is blurring the lines between truth and fiction, ESG is testing whether brands can even tell the truth about themselves. So you got the Advertising Standards Authority, the ASA, has been busy banning ads from like oil companies, banks, even airlines for greenwashing. And there's complaints about environmental claims have quadrupled in just a few years, according to what some of the reports I've read. And then you got the CMA, who has the power to fine brands and influencers, for any of them listening, because you can influence up to 10% of global turnover for misleading promotions. Now, in the out-of-home context, and your broader knowledge of advertising, where a claim is literally, in your case, at home, we were talking about like a claim could be literally 40 feet high on a billboard. The stakes couldn't be clearer. So with the regulators arming themselves with bigger fines and sharper tools, do you see ESG compliance become essential to brand strategy as financial compliance, say? Where is your position?
I wouldn't use the word financial compliance. I would say, and also I would almost... I know I'm going out there controversial by saying that I would go away from the term ESG, because ESG is encompassing so much, is environmental, social, and governance. And I think I'm at least one of those who likes to separate those three groups apart, because I think they are very different. Governance, I think, is key. There's a lot of legislation in the EU, in the UK, in California. It's becoming more mandatory. It's becoming more complex. Look at the ECCTA. There's more and more laws. I think that part is very crucial and an important part, not just to out-of-home advertising or advertising, to any business. Governance, I think you just have to get it right. You have to, and it's not getting it right might be the wrong terminology. You have to do it. It's keeping your house clean. It's as simple as that, I think. So the G in the ESG, I think, is becoming more and more, it's part of your strategy. It's your bread and butter. The other part, the E, I think it depends. As a global business, you need to look at from which country, where you're looking at it. Personally, I think, yes, we need to do more, and we need to be, again, more transparency. In the UK, it is definitely becoming part of our business. There's more compliance and more transparency and more reporting done on all of those.
Right. So if we're talking about, we've already spoken about the setting up the legal department, the AI element to assisting the delivery of the services. There is an element, because you are talking about all these different jurisdictions, these different complexities across multiple parts of the company that you have to manage. How in this green earth are you able to keep up to date with all of this information? What are your kind of go-tos for keeping up to date?
I think it's a mix, to be honest. It's one, just general news, because you would be surprised how much you pick up on just general news. The other is your external counsels, who offer, a lot of them offer really good courses, send out really good newsletters, and kind of the briefings you get. In the UK, the Law Society sends really good briefings out. There's the SCL, which sends really good briefings out. Not that I'm advertising for any of those companies in the moment.
Just to word of warning, I am on the AI committee for the SCL, but that was a nice plug. Thank you very much. Didn't even have to pay her.
It's almost reading the headlines and knowing when to deep dive. But at the same time, something we have talked about, not on this call, but separately, it's like when to go to your outside counsel and say, actually, I need a briefing on this, I need a briefing on that. For example, especially in the States, I'm very conscious that, yes, there's federal, but the state laws differ so much. And kind of, I'm almost regularly going to my external counsel in the US and like, right, which state do I have to be? Give me the basics. Which state do I have to be more worried? And then I know for certain things, I go to external counsel for these states. And it's the same thing here. Like if certain European countries, I rather go to external counsel and get confirmation on a point. Once you have it once or twice, you can then do it. But especially when you haven't done in a country something, I rely on external counsel. And the key thing is to get the right team. I must admit, I'm very, very lucky to have external counsel partners who are not there, who I don't have to feel like, oh, they're just here to rack up money, but they're helping. They're almost part of the team, as if you can call them and you don't feel like, oh, the time has started ticking. You know that they're just giving you the advice, what you need, when you need. They're super commercial. And have the right panel of firms on your side to help you with all the different laws, and keep learning and reading wherever you can.
The interesting thing, I've seen some companies, they do these, I'm terrible for calling it beauty parades, but it's not quite. It's panel interviews, shall I say. So they create an approach, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to at least test the elements of that law firm. Sometimes are they a good cultural fit? Do they have the right understanding of the industry, or are they just saying they do because they did? I remember when I was in-house, there was one person who did one M&A deal in that industry. And they were saying, yeah, but we need an IP lawyer. That's not the same. And we can't afford to allow you to learn on our dime, shall we say. So we had to be more specific and more firm with what we were looking for. Like, are there any parameters, without showing all of the parameters, or anything that you would say you would look for as key elements that makes a good external outside counsel, however you call it?
I think you just, again, if I use the term again, hit the nail on the head, but it's their cultural fit, especially in an M&A deal. They will get the right external specialist for that specific topic if you need. It's much more that they are fitting in, that they are thinking and understanding for your team, that they understand that they're part of your legal team, not undermining your own legal function, but working with your legal function and with your commercial team. And I'm thinking especially of from two different external lawyers, different law firms, who each in their own way have been absolutely brilliant in the way they negotiated the deals, knowing, like we talked before, where the risk appetite for the business is. More than they don't need to be the best specialist, they need to understand our risk appetite. That for me is more than anything. I like myself, who I don't know everything. I don't expect an external lawyer to know everything. They might need to read up, but I hope that, at least I might be delusional, you could say, if you're cynical, but I don't believe that my the external counsels we use learn on our case. Like, of course, a little bit, but the right chemistry and the right risk appetite is much more important than the right knowledge. I have dealt with external counsel which were the best in their field, but they didn't understand our risk appetite, and they didn't understand how we are doing business. So they were wrong for us, although they were, for sure, there's without a doubt the best in their field academically, but not for us. So for me, I'm not going for the knowledge base, but for the cultural fit, the risk understanding, that right balance between knowledge and risk and kind of risk understanding. I think that's the most important in external counsel, to find the right external counsel, which is also why I'm not going by firms, I'm going by people and different countries. We have different partners who are the right people for us. And though if any of them are listening, I want to say thank you to, without naming them, because I can only do my business because I have amazing, amazing partners in these external law firms who are helping us and who are great. So thank you.
That's so lovely to say to them. I don't think they ever get thank yous very often, except once they're trying to get testimonials for their legal rankings and all those things. That's lovely. That's actually very good. So I hope everybody listening, especially for in-house teams, that they're revisiting and double checking their own outside counsel choices. Thank you for that. Okay, so we have separation of the E, S and the G, with legal leading and fronting, or at least having a strong support in those conversations within companies, as we can see from the past and now hopefully into the future. So if ESG is about holding brands accountable, let's flip the lens. Who's holding the lawyers accountable? So more and more GCs are the first lawyer through the door. They're building teams from scratch. At the same time, AI is creeping into the legal delivery. You've got contract reviews, compliance dashboards, playbooks. The SRA has just reminded us you can automate the process, but you can't automate accountability. It makes total sense to me. So when you're the first lawyer in the business, and I'm asking you to think back to when you started in Talon, my understanding was that you started and you had to build from scratch. And you're building the entire legal DNA of the company. So what's the hardest part of setting up a legal team from scratch? And how do you balance being strategic with being the person who still has to redline the NDA, for example, coming in through the door?
You just hit the nail on the head. It's the balancing. I joined Talon just before the COVID crisis. So yes, you can imagine setting up a legal function in the middle of a storm, and therefore balancing strategic setup with urgent operational demands, which you had to kind of get done. Also, you had very little, there was the resource constraints, one person and a huge demand on everything. It was almost kind of, you needed to balance between kind of take the step back and make sure you're building something while getting the deals done. Because you couldn't get, and it was, some of it is, as lawyers, I think we all are perfectionists. We want everything done perfect. And you just learn, no, here you need to do plasters. It's like almost, not that I'm a doctor, but I expect it's the same. Imagine it's the same thing when you go to an emergency room. Somebody does the selection thing. Okay, these and these are urgent cases, and therefore we need to do something with them.
Triage.
The triaging can do properly. So that's what you're almost doing. You're triaging the urgent things you're getting done, because the last thing you want is that legal holds everything up because they want a perfect document. And at the other hand, you do need to set up a culture, because beforehand, the smaller businesses were just used to their external counsel who they could call up at the middle of the night and kind of like, I don't care. And they had then loads of people who could help out. Whereas here, it's just you. So you kind of need it. You need to build that culture and that attitude that they can come to you, can ask any question. And the earlier they come to you, the better you can advise time-wise, etc., and work very much with a team. So for me, as I was setting up, it was very important to not just sit in my ivory tower and be locked up and kind of like, take a number until you can wait and see me, but sit with the business, see what are their pain points, understand the business, because you can't advise a business if you don't understand it.
That's the thing is that, so I've heard from other people who just started recently, and they said curiosity is the key to setting up a legal department, because I think you pointed to the points around getting to know what everybody's doing, because you don't know what the legal issues really are. You're making assumptions, but you may not know, and you also might uncover a few that you never even knew anything about.
There's also the vice versa. The same is also true the other way around. Like the other day, I was giving legal training to one of our senior leadership teams, and they were so like, oh my God, the lawyer's going to be in the room, what will be? And I'm like, when you break it down and show them what the law really is, it's not something scary. So it's both ways. We, as the lawyers, need to be more curious and understand what they're doing. And very much, I remember when I worked at Deutsche Telekom, everybody, no matter where you were, had to go to a call center. And I very much keep that attitude going. I think no matter where you are in your career, always keep doing the grunt work. So, for example, today I still do NDAs because I just think you need to know what's going down in the business, but also with the different teams. Sit with them, understand. Like in our business, how does a campaign is being built? Why do you decide? Sit in, just listen how their issues are in their meetings, so you understand their concerns. You understand more. They're living and breathing, because that's exactly as you said. The lawyer should not be the one here's like a total separate world. Here's the terms and conditions. When you're sitting with them, you know then also better which things in the triage you have to really triage and which you don't.
I really like that because I think there is a risk, though, when you make yourself available and so approachable, then you could find that your time is being sucked up by all these other things when you've got, because I like, you're being very polite about just saying NDAs, but you're doing M&As, you're doing the corporate, you're doing the big high profile stuff, the hush can't talk about it stuff, as well as, the general day-to-day, running through the contracts, running through the negotiations, keeping the lights on, doing the property through to employment, through to all the other pieces that have to keep the lights on for a company to be successful. But like for you, so if everybody feels they can just access you at any point, what kind of things have you put in place to kind of put a bit of respectful boundaries, shall we say?
I do think you always have to be available. You can say you have to learn to say no, and it's not always the easiest thing to do because otherwise you drown. But I really think don't build up too much of a kind of security barrier around you, because you'll pay the price. You need a seat at the table and you need to hear what's going on. And you will only do that if you remain approachable and sitting with them. It's, yes, you're risking of being inundated and drowning and so you will have to learn to say no at times. But it's finding that fine balance. You need to find that balance. If you, from simple things, going for beer, at the end of the day, if you keep yourself apart, you don't know what the business is doing, they will not come to you quickly enough. You need to know what's going on.
That kind of reminds me of certain negotiation strategy points that I was trained on many moons ago. I won't tell you how long back, but one of them was we used to have run conversations and negotiations over the phone. So everybody would gather around a phone, would be on a speaker, and everybody, one person would be taking notes, one person would be talking, one person would be nudging the other person with notes across the table, etc. But it didn't seem to be the most effective way to negotiate. And I think the phrase which was thrown at me was you need to eyeball the other side in order to. It's a terrible imagery, so apologies for everybody anyway. But it is the idea that actually, if you can see somebody's body language, you see what matters to them, then you can build a rapport, you can build that trust. And it sounds like you do that amongst leadership, from grassroots to top down, bottom up, whatever the phrases are. You've done it all because you know them, they know you, and you can read, there's something else behind what their statement.
I also think actually you said the key thing. For me, it's also with the other side. I'm a big believer that your relationship with the other side is really important and not just battle of forms. My colleagues know me by now. I'm like, okay, if there's any negotiation, I would rather have a phone call. I think it's much more efficient, either meeting in person or on a call to resolve any issues rather than exchanging 1,000,001 drafts.
You don't like the email wars, do you?
Not a big fan. Way back at Deutsche Telekom, I remember very well a negotiation, which it was rather painful. And yet, because we were in that room, we managed to have a deal which we were all really happy at the end and work because we were together. We could find, it's just much easier to find the pain points and find a solution. In the end, no matter what any strategists tell you, everybody wants a win-win because that works for both sides in the long term. We are very much a partnership industry. We're not working in silo and just delivering a service. We're working together with our clients and together with our partners to bring an amazing campaign to the audience, to the street, the campaigns you mentioned, the campaigns which stop the people on the street. And we're doing that together. The negotiation of these campaigns together, you need to do with the other side. Everybody has their pain points and it's a give and take. And then together you can solve it and get a contract which works for everyone.
But I love that, because what that is to me is the way negotiation should be. For lawyers, we're always trained in an adversarial context. At least I was the common law trained. I know, Yvonne, you've got hints of Multiple languages, by the way. So she's super intelligent across multiple languages, but I won't test her on this one because she'll put me to shame. But anybody can do law in multiple languages, to me, is gold for any team. But what I like about this is that it's a sense of the lawyer comes into these deal negotiations with a view of getting a deal signed. Not with the view of walking away just because you didn't get a word or a comma in a clause. Nobody's going to thank the lawyer for that. You're there to work with the team because you want to deliver. I really like the idea, but I always would ask people, if you're not an adversarial, if you're not in a litigation, it's not potential settlement negotiations or it's a termination negotiation. You're there to help us get the deal over the line. I always feel that that's sometimes missed. But if you know the people on your side really well, they're the type of people that give you that nudge to get you back on track and vice versa. Do you agree?
That's it. You know what you need to get it done, and you can't get everything what you need. And in the end, the business, you have to take a risk at the end. You can't get something risk-free. Just doesn't work. What you're doing as a lawyer, you're trying to make it more palatable, and then the business has to decide if it's palatable enough to sign.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect document. It doesn't work. So I think that's the biggest thing, to accept that and get there and okay, what is the best for our strategy and most palatable.
Yes. So you said the word strategy. So we have to think of the bigger picture at all times. But you're not alone. You've expanded your team, right? So you've expanded. So some of that triage you've been able to use with expanding your team. You're also looking at AI, aren't you, in the context of as being even a consideration as a lifeline for the overstretched, can I say, general counsel? Or do, maybe, if I can be facetious, to say that you're using AI because it's another layer of risk that you can blame it instead of blame yourself if it all goes wrong? I know the answer to this one. I know you well enough to know that's, yeah. But anyway, what's your thoughts around AI and as a support tool?
I like the word you used, support. I don't think it's what you started off saying as a lifeline. I don't think it's a lifeline at all. I would more call it's a lubricant. Mm-hmm. It makes things smoother, faster, quicker. And we are all learning to integrate more with it, to use it better. I think part of it is we're all still learning how to use it better. It's from asking the right questions and using the right tools. It definitely makes our life much easier. And we all are watching the space. Where are the right tools? There's so many tools out there. I'm one of the ones more critical on one tool can fit it all, or at least I'd have to see. But there are a lot of really, really amazing AI tools, and they will make our life a lot easier. I think they actually will make focus on the human element. We can bring the human element, and the AI will help the more admin, the more tedious tasks which need to get done. We can then focus on strategy and on the human side, kind of this triage. An AI tool can't do the triage. We can do the triage. The AI element can help you to make it faster, smoother, but it's very much an evolving space.
Yeah.
And every time I go to another tech talk or something, I'm like, wow, I'm always amazed. There's so many really, really cool companies out there. And it's like a kid in a toy store. You're always trying a new tool and seeing what is out there. I think the journey only has started. There's so many more to come, and see where I'm at least one of those who's excited about what it's bringing. I don't think it will replace us. I know there's also all these kind of like, oh, AI will replace the lawyer. I don't think so. I think it's, as you said, it will be assisting us. And as I said, I see it as a lubricant for us.
Very good. And it's from the data that on certain reports I've seen recently, like the Law Society reported this year that 42% of new general counsels are first lawyer hires, which I find fascinating. The SRA was reported even in September 2025 that lawyers must be human accountable when using AI. So you have to have that human accountability throughout. And then I read in Gartner said by 2027, pinch of salt, everybody is looking into the future, but by 2027, 50% of in-house legal work will be AI assisted. I always think the word assisted is key here, people. It's assisted. It's not taking over the role because they can't give legal advice. So these are kind of interesting data points, which I find I know our listeners will be interested to hear. Now, so we've explored how legal strategy shapes everything from data-driven billboards, TSG, or E, and then S, And then G, claims and AI-powered contracts. But behind the headlines and the high-stakes decisions, there's still a human side to the job. And there's a few myths that refuse to die. So like the idea that in-house lawyers spends their days sipping lattes and redlining contracts in a Zen garden, or that we have a secret button that says, make it legal, and suddenly everything's fine. So let me bring it back to my fun questions I always want to ask each of my guests. So Yvonne, what's the biggest misconception people have about your work?
I think
there's a long list.
It's like I think that people are just like, just legal's the necessary evil is what. Or at the previous company, it's like, it's the police stopping the deal, and I think that's what it's exactly the opposite. It's the ones who want to help you to get the deal done, get it done in the more value add, get it done in a frame which works for you. And what I love about the role actually is that it's so varied. It's not just get the deals done. It's also get the governance done. Look at the AI, for example, legal was one of the driving forces of in our business to set up an AI committee.
Thank you, Lord. I mean, I've been asking everybody to do these things and an AI policy and thank you. I love this. Music to my ears.
For me, we're doing so much more. We're kind of like, the way I said, I'm in the moment working on building legal training for the sales team, because I'm like, I shouldn't be the guardian of all the legals, or the legal team shouldn't be. Everybody should know. The more you know, the more you speak the same language. They don't need, that is for me, it's more spreading it, that more people know about it. And then we get involved in so many different aspects of the business. That's what I love. It's literally from our creative guys, helping them, or they come to us with the latest, it's like, does this work from a creative perspective, to the tech team who's like, okay, how does this tech work from liability perspective, etc., and the data perspective, and then to, of course, the sales teams, to the M&A deals, to HR. It's just, that's what I love about it. It's so varied, and it's global, and every country has slightly different pain points, also a slightly different way of addressing an issue. So you sometimes really need to understand, okay, in the UK, I need to package it this way. In the US, I need to package it that way. And kind of, I love that you kind of have to be like chameleon, kind of like always acting slightly different depending on which part of the business is asking you the question, which part of the business, in which country, in which culture, and you can't apply the same thing everywhere because you have to just adapt.
To be honest, Yvonne, if you got a job going, I'm sure lots of listeners as well would love to have this job. You're doing an amazing sell of the role itself. So that's good. Well, I always ask a second question, but I think I might even know what the answer is straight away. But what's the part of the job that's fun? What the part that still brings you joy?
As I just said, that the variety.
Yeah, see, I knew it.
No, it really is the variety, the people that you don't know what's next. And it's fun. Yeah, some days you're like, I think we all get gray hairs at work, but it's just part and parcel of it. I like that your brain is being challenged, that you're being challenged. I like that. People think you know it all, but no, trust me, we don't. We need to just learn and grow. And I think for me, the key message for anybody out there wanting to do that or in starting this sort of a job is you never stop learning. Keep growing. There's constantly something changing somewhere. And if you stop learning, you'll fall. You have to grow and learn and adapt.
Is it fair? Because I've had in prior podcasts for our listeners who have listened to every single one. I'm sure they have. No, but there's a common theme across it. The most successful lawyers out there are the ones that are just naturally curious. They know that there's more out there to learn. And they're not proud to say, I know it all. They know that, hold on, they can pause and say, I think there's something there I need to check. I'll come back to you. I feel that that's one of the fundamental skills to be a very good in-house lawyer, or any kind of lawyer, is just to admit when there's more to learn. And I think that if everybody understands culturally that that's always got to be the case, then they'll respect that. I respect people who do it and say, I need to go and research. It's like even doctors. We mentioned the medical profession before. Sometimes they'll say, I need to check up on this to see what is the right treatment for you. They don't just wing it.
It's the right balance, I think. because like you can't say all the time I check and I check and I check. But it's like, yeah, it is. You can't. If you pretend you know it all, I would be seriously concerned. You can't.
No.
Too many jurisdictions, too many issues, too many topics. You just can't. And it's exactly what I love, that there's constantly something new to learn. There's never something every day the same. Okay, I just know it and I prove that. It's every day is something different and new to learn.
Love this. Well, Yvonne, thank you for joining us on Beyond the Fine Print. So we've heard from van stunts to AI hallucinations to billboard-sized ESG claims. You've given us a masterclass in how legal strategy shapes the public stage. To all our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe, leave a review, share it with the lawyer in your life who's secretly dreaming of being that creative director. But until next time, stay curious, stay real, and step boldly beyond the fine print. Thank you all. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Fine Print. If you've enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss the next episode. And if you have any burning questions you want us to cover in a future episode, send them to beyondthefineprint@rmoklegal.com. See you next time.